In April of 2015, friends of 24-year-old Amanda Taylor were shocked to discover an Instagram post she had made confessing to the fatal stabbing of her former father-in-law, accompanied by a selfie with the victim's body. It was clear, based on Amanda's wording, that she had killed 59-year-old Charles Taylor because she blamed him for the death of her estranged husband, Rex, who had succumbed to an unspeakable tragedy the previous year. More specifically, Amanda seemed to blame Charles for Rex's addiction to prescription drugs, which he became hooked on as a teen while battling depression. As his addiction worsened in 2014, Amanda asked him to move out because she didn't want their 2 children exposed to his substance abuse. Rex moved in with Charles and died just a few months later. In her social media post admitting to the murder, Amanda wrote that she committed the act for the right reasons, and she even said she was proud of her actions. She carried out the crime with the help of a friend, Sean Ball, and they had gone on the run by the time Charles's body was discovered inside his Montgomery County, Virginia home. Police found Ball along a roadside with life-threatening injuries, and Amanda was captured in North Carolina after law enforcement disabled her car using spike strips. She doubled down on her belief that she had done the right thing by killing Charles during an interview with local news station WDBJ, stating, "I killed someone who deserved it." But not everyone shared Amanda's sentiments about Charles, who was well liked and deeply missed by many. 7 months after the killing, a jury found her guilty of murder after deliberating for less than 25 minutes. The judge sentenced her to life without parole. Number 21. Kayce R. Sims. While responding to a reported shooting at a home in Fayette County, West Virginia, in November 2022, police found 37-year-old Ashton Owens suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. The victim succumbed to his injuries shortly after being airlifted to the hospital. Investigators soon discovered that Owens' murder stemmed from an argument he'd gotten into earlier that day with the grandmother of 21-year-old Kayce R. Sims. After seeing a post that his grandmother had made about the argument on social media, Sims borrowed a gun from an acquaintance and confronted Owens at his residence. The 2 men argued briefly before Sims fired 2 shots at Owens. He then fled the scene, but the incident had occurred in front of 3 witnesses, so it wasn't long before the cops identified Sims as the prime suspect in the case. In March of 2024, Sims was found guilty of first-degree murder. The jury recommended mercy with its verdict, which means he'll become eligible for parole after serving 18 years. Number 20. Luis Manuel Picado Grijalba, a fugitive drug kingpin, was arrested at a London airport in December 2024 after his wife posted photos on social media of the couple vacationing in Europe. 43-year-old Luis Manuel Picado Grijalba, who goes by the street name Shock, was wanted by the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration for trafficking cocaine from Limon, Costa Rica, to the United States when he was nabbed. He had been wanted for several months, but had managed to evade the authorities until he accompanied his wife, Estefania McDonald Rodriguez, on an overseas trip. Grijalba rarely traveled with Rodriguez, but he captured the attention of law enforcement when he purchased $20,000 worth of plane tickets. During the holiday season, he flew to Paris and joined his wife, who was already in Europe, and Rodriguez wasted no time posting photos of herself and Grijalba, including a snapshot of the couple in front of the Eiffel Tower. Unbeknownst to Grijalba, DEA agents had been hot on his trail ever since he departed from Costa Rica's Juan Santamaria airport. They tracked him to Paris using Rodriguez's posts, giving the agency a prime opportunity to arrest Grijalba outside of Costa Rica, which does not extradite its citizens to other countries to face criminal charges. Grijalba flew to London to ring in the new year with his family, but was instead met by arrested members of law enforcement. He is currently fighting his extradition to the US, but remains in custody. Meanwhile, his arrest has garnered mixed reactions from Costa Rican officials, including President Rodrigo Chavez Robles, who questioned why the country's Judicial Investigation Department, OIJ, doesn't have an open case against Grijalba. Number 19. Zara Kay. In December 2020, Australian women's rights activist Zara Kay, was arrested in Tanzania over a tweet mocking the country's president. She had made the post, which mocked the president's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic months earlier while in London. Kay, who had immigrated to Australia years earlier, claimed that the authorities raised concerns over her being an Australian citizen in possession of a Tanzanian passport after they took her into custody based on the satirical tweet. She speculated that she would face trumped-up charges due to the tweet, despite conceding that under Tanzanian law, a person automatically forfeits a right to a passport once they become a citizen of another country. In Kay's own words, she had simply never thought about surrendering her Tanzanian passport because she'd never used it, and she had traveled to the country on her Australian passport and a visa. Kay also suspected that she was being detained for renouncing her Muslim faith, even though she had not engaged in any activism during her time in Tanzania. Several weeks after her initial arrest, Kay claimed that she was being held on bail, effectively keeping her stuck in the country, despite the absence of any criminal charges. She called on the Australian government to intervene and claimed she was receiving death threats after Tanzanian authorities released details of her arrest to the local media. Kay was finally allowed to return to Australia 2 months after her arrest. After getting international lawyers involved in her case, she was issued an Australian passport after the one she was traveling with was confiscated and mysteriously lost, and the experience only made her more outspoken about her support for human rights. Number 18. Moshe Khaimov. In January 2025, a high school student from Queens, New York, was arrested on felony charges for posting a video of himself waving a gun around in a threatening manner on Instagram. Identified by prosecutors as Moshe Khaimov, the adolescent offender could be seen handling the gun, an ammo clip, and bullets, while rapping along with the lyrics, "Bo, bo, somebody got to go down." Authorities were alerted to the alarming clip after Khaimov's classmates saw it and told their parents, who called the teen's school. During a search of Khaimov's bedroom, NYPD officers found a 9mm semi-automatic pistol, along with several rounds of ammunition and a 15-round magazine. Khaimov is facing a handful of felonies, including criminal possession of a loaded weapon, possession of a large-capacity ammunition feeding device, and possession of a fake gun which substantially duplicates an actual pistol or revolver. The day after his arrests, police brought metal detectors to his school in Forest Hills, which typically does not scan students for weapons. In an email to the school's principal teacher, Adam Bergstein described Khaimov as a clear and present danger and claimed that the wayward teen had brought weapons to school. He also wrote that Khaimov had a history of striking and threatening teachers and students. Speaking to the New York Post, Bergstein criticized the Department of Education for an alleged lack of discipline and an over-reliance on restorative justice circles for correcting problematic behavior rather than old-fashioned punishment. Number 17. Latavion Johnson. Federal agents came knocking with a search warrant at 22-year-old Latavion Johnson's Chicago home in October 2024 after discovering videos of a gun equipped with a Glock switch on the young man's social media account, also known as an auto-sear. The device is used for converting semi-automatic guns into automatic weapons, enabling the shooter to fire multiple bullets with a single pull of the trigger. In addition to finding footage of Johnson holding a gun that was modified with a Glock switch, the feds had come across a photo of the weapon next to a stack of $20 bills. Johnson was charged with possession of a machine gun and could face up to 10 years in prison if convicted. Number 16. Coty Lyn Veach. Also known as Coty Shot and Coty Shot Jackson, a wanted Texas woman named Coty Lyn Veach was nabbed by law enforcement in July of 2018 after she and her husband, Jason Veach, were seen posing with their newly purchased Jeep Wrangler on a Stuart, Florida car dealership's Facebook page. Authorities had obtained a warrant for the accused bigamist's arrest following her failure to appear in court 2 months earlier, and it wasn't her first time skipping out on a hearing. Veach had previously failed to appear in court on 2 separate occasions the previous year and had been on the run for several months when a private investigator spotted the dealership photo. The PI had been hired by a bail bondsman who had issued her most recent surety bond and was determined to track her down. After discovering the photo, the investigator had an easy time tracking down Veach's address, where the Wrangler was seen parked in the driveway. He entered the residence through an unlocked window with the assistance of law enforcement and found Veach hiding in a closet. Veach's original case stemmed from allegations that she lived with and pretended to be married to someone other than her husband before her divorce from her husband was finalized. Under Texas law, this apparently qualifies as felony bigamy, which can carry a prison term of 2 to 10 years. Number 15. Bruce and Connor Chargois. Just a week after a crazed gunman wreaked havoc on students and staff at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, in early 2018, police in Saugerties, New York were alerted to a series of alarming Facebook posts by 18-year-old Connor Chargois, who had written that the Columbine shooters had the right idea. Connor admitted to making the post, but he and his father, Bruce Chargois, denied owning any guns, which turned out to be a lie. During a second round of questioning weeks after Connor's initial arrest, Bruce admitted that he did in fact own guns and that he had removed them from his home after his first police interview. During a search of Bruce's business, investigators found 5 guns hidden inside pinball machines, including an AR-15 and an Uzi. Police also found ammunition, gun parts, and homemade guns and knives, resulting in Bruce and Connor's arrests on weapon-related charges. The father-son duo received an outpouring of support from the community. So many people showed up for their court hearings that the proceedings had to be moved to a bigger courthouse. Despite the overwhelmingly forgiving nature of local residents, however, prosecutors still believed it was important for the defendants to serve at least some prison time. Connor admitted to building guns in the basement of his home and was sentenced to 2 years in prison, followed by 5 years of probation, while Bruce received a 6-month sentence plus 5 years of probation for a felony evidence tampering charge. Number 14. Jesse Gonzalez. In June of 2018, police in Cape Coral, Florida, arrested 20-year-old Jesse Gonzalez, who was seen wandering around a residential community while saying that he was looking for someone who had killed his friend. That friend happened to be 20-year-old slain rapper Extension, who had been fatally shot in Miami just days earlier. A 911 caller told officers that Gonzalez had been seen pacing in the street and asking people if he could use their cell phones. Gonzalez apparently wasn't the only one who thought Extension's killer lived in Cape Coral. Earlier that week, police had released a statement saying that they had received numerous calls about the rapper's murder investigation. Cape Coral had apparently become a focal point of armchair detectives and justice-seeking vigilantes due to an inaccurate Instagram post claiming that the killer lived at a specific address in the city. One man had shown up at the house claiming to deliver a pizza, and when the homeowner said they hadn't ordered delivery, the man sat in his car in the driveway for several minutes before leaving. Law enforcement had already determined that the suspect did not live at the residence and never had by the time they arrested Gonzalez, who was charged with loitering and prowling. The only people who lived at the home were a couple in their 70s, and the repeated visits by revenge-seeking fans of the slain rapper prompted police to step up their presence in the neighborhood until the situation blew over. Number 13. Bradley Morgan. 24-year-old Bradley Morgan was banned from owning a gun due to his status as a convicted felon, but it didn't stop him from posting photos of himself with guns on Instagram, even when he was on probation and had a warrant out for his arrest for other charges. Police raided his Kokomo, Indiana home in April 2021 after becoming aware of the photos and found several firearms, including a Glock with a 23-round capacity extended magazine. The cops also found Morgan hiding in a closet and took him into custody. Morgan's arrest came just a year after he pleaded guilty to criminal recklessness with a dangerous weapon in connection with the shooting of a teenage girl. He was serving a 2-year probation sentence when police busted him for having guns. In early 2024, he pleaded guilty to a federal charge of being a felon in possession of a firearm and was sentenced to 5 years and 8 months in prison. Records list a projected release date of February 2028. Number 12. Breyanna Dean. In April 2019, a 24-year-old Pasco County, Florida woman named Breyanna Dean was accused of extorting a man by posting his private photos on social media and demanding payment in exchange for taking them down. According to court documents, Breyanna Dean shared the images on the victim's social media accounts after finding them in his old phone that she was in possession of. She also locked the man out of his social media accounts by changing his passwords. In the words of an arrest report, Dean directly exposed the victim to disgrace through her actions, resulting in her arrest on a felony extortion charge. Number 11. Markesha Wilkerson. A wanted Florida woman's outing to a Chuck E. Cheese in Lakeland was cut short by police in April of 2017 after someone alerted law enforcement that she had posted a live video on Facebook from the establishment. 18-year-old Markesha Wilkerson had failed to appear in court and was accused of violating probation that she was serving for previous gun and battery charges. She also had other priors, including for felony aggravated assault and domestic violence. In the video, which was later shared by the Polk County Sheriff's Office, Wilkerson could be seen posing with the Chuck E. Cheese character while hanging out at the restaurant. After being picked up by deputies, she was booked into the Polk County Jail without bond. While it's unclear how that particular case turned out, records show that Wilkerson landed in hot water with the law again in December 2019, when she was charged with aggravated battery with a deadly weapon for trying to attack someone with a knife and pepper spray. She recently finished serving a 2-year prison sentence for the crime and was released in February 2025. Number 10. Anigar Monsee. In January 2024, police in Upper Darby Township, Pennsylvania, arrested 28-year-old Anigar Monsee for torturing animals on YouTube. At least 4 videos were uncovered by law enforcement, including one which appeared to show the suspect slowly killing a chicken while being encouraged by attention from viewers. She repeated similar acts on a rabbit, a pigeon, and some frogs, and was charged with 4 felony counts of aggravated cruelty to animals for her crimes. Authorities were alerted to Monsee's disturbing behavior by the animal rights group People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, or PETA. Following the suspect's arrest, Upper Darby Police Superintendent Timothy Bernhardt commended the non-profit for bringing Monsee's actions to law enforcement's attention. Community members were horrified by the nature of the allegations against the defendant, who reportedly admitted to the abuse when questioned by police. Animal rights activists demonstrated outside the courthouse on the days of Monsee's scheduled hearings, making it clear that they would be unsatisfied with anything but the maximum punishment. The latest available media updates are from June of 2024, leaving the current status of the case unclear. Number 9. Edward Richardson. 26-year-old Zara Richardson was murdered in a frenzied knife attack in 2008 at the hands of her estranged husband, who forced his way into her Staffordshire, England home in a fit of rage because she had changed her Facebook status to single. Fueled by cocaine and alcohol, 41-year-old Edward Richardson attacked Zara while she was lying in bed, stabbing her with such force that he shattered her ribs, punctured her liver, and slashed her aorta. After deliberating for just 3 hours following Edward's trial in January 2009, a jury found him guilty of murder. While imposing a life sentence with a minimum of 18 years, the judge admonished Edward for what he described as an act of brutal mutilation. He went on to describe the particularly heinous nature of Edward's decision to kill Zara in her family's home, leaving her parents so traumatized that they were no longer able to enter her bedroom. Number 8. Lonnelle Evans. In February 2024, law enforcement executed a search warrant at the Cook County, Illinois home of 24-year-old Lonnelle Evans, who had been posting guns for sale on social media for months. Police recovered multiple firearms as well as magazines, ammunition, drug paraphernalia, cannabis, and $900 cash. Following the bust, Evans was charged with being a repeat felon in possession of a firearm and manufacturing or delivering 30 to 500 grams of cannabis. Authorities have not released any other details about the arrest, but records indicate that Evans was released and the case appears to be ongoing. Number 7. Randy Taylor. Social media influencer Alexis Murphy was just about to start her senior year of high school when she left her Nelson County, Virginia home in August 2013 and never returned. She tweeted that she was on her way to a hair appointment but didn't show up at the salon. leading to speculation that one of her 12,000 followers might have harmed her. 3 days later, Murphy's car was found abandoned in the parking lot of a Carmike cinema. Years would pass before her body was finally found, but in the meantime, investigators uncovered enough evidence to feel confident that she was no longer alive and had met with foul play. While combing through surveillance video of the Lovingston gas station that Murphy was last seen at, police noticed that she had engaged in conversation with a heavily tattooed man before following his SUV out of the parking lot. Identified as 48-year-old Randy Taylor, the man claimed that Murphy and another man had followed him to his trailer to buy marijuana, but a search of the property turned up a plethora of alarming evidence, including Murphy's smashed phone, hair extensions, fingernails, and a diamond earring that belonged to her. Suddenly, it seemed as though any theories about Murphy being abducted and killed by a social media fan were moot. Taylor was finally charged in connection with the case 3 years after Murphy's disappearance in 2013, and he was indicted on murder and abduction charges the following year. In 2014, he was found guilty in a last-ditch effort to spare himself from a life sentence. Taylor offered to disclose the location of Murphy's body and the name of an alleged second suspect in exchange for a 20-year sentence. Prosecutors rejected the offer, and he was sentenced to 2 life terms. Murphy's remains were finally found 7 years after she vanished in early 2020. Number 6. Tenisha Bonner. During an otherwise ordinary Monday morning in Center Point, Alabama, Jefferson County deputies were called to a local drugstore regarding a domestic violence incident. A relative of 34-year-old Tenisha Bonner revealed that Bonner had posted a video of herself striking her husband the previous night. Worried that Bonner might be armed and concerned for her household's well-being, the relative asked police to follow him to her home so he could check on the family. No one was at the residence, but police managed to track Bonner and her husband down at a relative's home nearby. Her husband reportedly had visible cuts to his face, and Bonner was arrested on suspicion of domestic abuse. Number 5. The murder of Hira Anwar. Born and raised just north of the Bronx in Yonkers, New York, Hira Anwar was by all appearances a typical American teenager, but her parents, who had immigrated to the US from Pakistan, expected her to adhere to their ultra-conservative lifestyle and values. They were especially disapproving of Hira's social media presence, believing that it symbolized immodesty. In January 2025, Hira was shot dead in the middle of the street in Pakistan by her father and an uncle after being lured to the country for what she thought was a family vacation. Hira's father, Anwar ul-Haq, told police that he had committed the so-called honor killing due to the shame he believed his daughter's social media post brought to the family. Hira's murder reignited widespread outrage over honor killings and gender-based violence against women of South Asian descent. The problem appears to be particularly concerning in Pakistan, where annual honor killings are estimated at anywhere from 500 to 1,000. Friends and community members expressed shock and dismay after learning about the murder of Hira, who they described as a typical adolescent who did not dress or behave provocatively by American standards. Number 4. Mark Byron. A Cincinnati, Ohio judge sentenced one rogue social media user to an unconventional punishment in 2012 when he gave Mark Byron the choice of either serving 60 days in jail or publicly apologizing to his estranged wife on Facebook every day for a month after allegedly trash-talking her on the platform. Byron and his soon-to-be ex were entangled in a child custody dispute when he began making posts complaining about parental alienation and condemning women who falsely accuse their partners of domestic violence. The posts echoed many real-life aspects of Byron and his wife's contentious separation and divorce, but Byron denied that they were directed at his ex when he was accused of violating a protective order prohibiting him from inflicting mental abuse on her. After learning about his posts, the judge held him in contempt and then gave him the ultimatum. Byron chose to apologize to avoid jail time, but he appealed the punishment, arguing that it violated his free speech rights. And while he failed to follow through on the requirement to apologize daily for an entire month, the judge ruled that he had sufficiently expressed remorse and spared him from jail time. Number 3. Paula Asher. After T-boning another vehicle while driving drunk in 2012, Paula Asher made a Facebook post stating, "My dumbass got a DUI and hit a car, LOL." But it was no laughing matter to the occupants of the car she had hit or the judge overseeing her case, who ordered Asher to deactivate her Facebook account after learning about the post. Asher disobeyed the order and was sentenced to 2 days in jail for contempt. She later said that she didn't think saying LOL would put her in jail and apologized to the victims and the judge for her distasteful words. Today's topic was requested by Sheekum123. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Roshanak Molaei. In November 2024, a 26-year-old Iranian woman named Roshanak Molaei posted a video on social media of a man on a motorbike accosting her while she walked down a Tehran street with her head uncovered. Molaei fought back against the man, who appeared to be wearing a military uniform, and captioned the video, "A scene from being a woman in Iran." The next day, the police came and arrested Molaei and forced her to shut down her social media accounts. As days wore on with no knowledge of her whereabouts, the story landed at the center of international news headlines, sparking concerns around the world for the young woman's well-being. Molaei was being detained at a prison where she remained for nearly a month before being sentenced to 14 lashes. She was released after undergoing the painful punishment, which highlighted widespread ongoing concerns over the treatment of women who challenge Iran's strict hijab laws. Stick around after the final chapter if you have not yet seen our episode about when useless influencers go wrong. That's coming up right after. Number 1. Lost in translation. In October 2017, Israeli police mistakenly arrested a Palestinian man for writing "Good morning" in Arabic on Facebook, which had been misinterpreted as a terrorist attack message. The post was accompanied by a photo of the man working at his construction job near Jerusalem in Bitar Illit. Facebook's automatic translating service had woefully missed the mark, prompting a concerned civilian to call law enforcement. Officers arrested the man, who remained in custody for several hours before the misunderstanding was sorted out. On February the 1st of 2021, MTV reality star Julia Rose and 5 men were arrested after altering California's Hollywood sign to read "Holly Boob." The group were captured on video surveillance shortly after 1 p.m. as they draped a tarp with the letter B over the W on the iconic sign. They also added a white dash across the letter D in order to make it appear as a B. When a police helicopter arrived, they spotted the group moving back down the steep terrain toward Mulholland Drive. Officers eventually intercepted the suspects at the bottom of the hill and took them into custody on a charge of misdemeanor trespassing. In the aftermath, Rose took credit for the prank. She told Vice that it wasn't just for laughs. She said that at the time, her personal and business pages on Instagram, which had a total of 6 million follows, had recently been suspended because of nudity. Rose further stated that the altered sign was meant to get the attention of Instagram head Adam Mosseri, claiming that she wanted to know how the online platform was choosing which accounts to disable and the reasons behind their decision to do so. Number 10. Mahek Bukhari. TikTok star Mahek Bukhari from Tunstall, England, was jailed for 31 years over a double murder on September the 1st of 2023. The sentence that the 24-year-old had received was in connection with an incident that took place on February the 11th of 2022. At around 1:30 a.m. on the day in question, law enforcement were called to the central reservation of the A46 near 6 Hills about reports of a car on fire. Leicestershire Fire and Rescue Service were also called to the scene, and after the fire was put out, officers found 2 bodies, which were later identified as Saqib Hussain and Mohammed Hashim Ijazuddin. As investigators carried out inquiries into the collision, the incident was immediately linked to a 999 call that had been made by Hussain in the moments leading up to the crash, during which he distressingly told the operator that he and Ijazuddin were being followed by 2 cars. He'd claimed that the occupants of the vehicles had balaclavas on and that they were trying to block him and ram him off the road. He had further stated that they were trying to kill him. However, the call was suddenly disconnected when the car crashed During the investigation, it was determined that Hussein had been in a relationship with Mahek's 46-year-old mother, Ansreen Bukhari. After the married woman decided to end the extramarital affair, Hussein started making threats to tell Ansreen's husband about their tryst. He even threatened to share explicit images and videos of Ansreen if she'd still go through with dumping him. Court records indicated that Ansreen consequently confided in her daughter regarding the ultimatum Hussein had given her. Text messages revealed that Mahek told her mother, "I'll get him jumped by guys, and he won't know what day it is." Shortly after, Ansreen promised Hussein she'd pay an amount in restitution for what the man had spent on her during their relationship. An arrangement was made for them to meet at a local car park, where Hussein would receive the money. When he arrived at the location, a group of people was waiting for him. Realizing he was ambushed, Hussein, who was accompanied by Ajazuddin in their vehicle, fled the scene. He was chased after by two vehicles occupied by the Bukharis and other suspects. The high-speed pursuit that followed ultimately ended with their vehicle setting ablaze after hitting a barrier and subsequently colliding with a tree. In the wake of the investigation, Mahek and Ansreen were arrested. Eventually, 6 other suspects were also taken into custody. Mahek and Ansreen were found guilty of 2 counts of murder in 2023. Mahek received a life sentence and her mother was handed a life sentence of at least 26 years. 2 of the other suspects were also convicted of murder and received life sentences as well. The other 4 co-conspirators were found guilty of manslaughter and received sentences ranging from at least 11 years to nearly 15 years behind bars. Number 9. Jacob Ryan Percival. An aspiring social media influencer jumped into the alligator enclosure at the Busch Gardens amusement park in Tampa, Florida, and was ultimately arrested after posting a video of the stunt on social media. On June the 1st of 2023, Jacob Ryan Percival from Prairieville, Louisiana, had gone to the amusement park with several others. While at the park, Percival entered the alligator enclosure while one of the people he was with recorded it. In the video, Percival could be seen on the banks of the enclosure, pointing at the crowd and saying, "Another wild Karen, crikey," before making his way out of the enclosure, again unscathed. The 21-year-old subsequently posted the footage online and it quickly went viral. The video helped detectives identify and track Percival. On June the 5th, he was arrested and charged with burglary, trespassing, and petty theft. 2 of his accomplices were also facing similar charges. The Hillsborough State Attorney's Office and Percival's attorney later struck a pretrial intervention agreement, which was approved by a judge in September of 2023. Percival would avoid a felony conviction provided that he'd complete 75 hours of community service, pay $134.99 in restitution to Busch Gardens, submit a letter of apology to the park, and take down all social media posts related to this stunt. Additionally, he was ordered to have no contact with the park, among other conditions. Number 8. Larissa Yanka R. da Silva. Brazilian influencer Larissa Yanka da Silva, also known as Larissa Maite, on her Instagram account with almost 100,000 followers, was arrested for her involvement in a group's plot to steal more than $600 worth of Easter eggs and flip-flops from a supermarket in Rio's Tijuca neighborhood. The 20-year-old and a handful of others had been caught by security cameras trying to leave the Guanabara supermarket on the night of April the 11th of 2023. They had placed at least 56 eggs and 3 pairs of flip-flops in bags and simply tried to walk out before they were stopped by security. A struggle briefly ensued, shortly after which the group were handed over to authorities. Da Silva was facing several charges, including corruption of minors. Since most of her accomplices were teens, records indicated that the woman had a history of shoplifting and had been cited for the crime approximately 8 times. In the wake of the incident, the Daily Star said that Da Silva went viral for all the wrong reasons, as a glimpse of the physical altercation in the supermarket circulated across social media platforms. Number 7. Ben Bitboy Armstrong. On the late evening of September the 25th of 2023, 40-year-old crypto influencer Ben Armstrong landed behind bars after attempting to confront his former business partner during a YouTube live stream. The incident came nearly 1 month after Armstrong, who was ousted from the company he himself had started called BitBoy Crypto. The company had not only fired him but also taken Armstrong's car to recoup funds allegedly taken by the company's founder. In the beginning of Armstrong's live stream, he could be seen at the Georgia residence of his ex-business associate, Carlos Diaz, whom he claimed wanted to kill him. He said his Lamborghini was at Diaz's garage. The man then started becoming belligerent, yelling, "Carlos, I'm not afraid of you." Nearly 19 minutes into the stream, local police arrived and questioned Armstrong, asking him if he had a weapon on him. Armstrong initially denied having a weapon, but later recanted and was charged with loitering and simple assault by placing another individual in fear. Apparently, after posting his $2,600 bond, he took his arrest in stride, joking about the ordeal on Twitter, saying, "My name is Ben and I'm a loiterer. I did 8 whole hours in the slammer." Number 6. Danielle Miller. On March the 6th of 2023, 32-year-old New Yorker Danielle Miller pleaded guilty to fraud, enabling her to live the luxurious lifestyle she'd bragged about on TikTok and Instagram. That lifestyle had been funded with more than $1 million in stolen COVID relief loans. Prosecutors said that the influencer had grabbed up loans handed out by the federal government as a result of the COVID pandemic from July 2020 through May 2021 by using the personal identifying information of at least 10 people and fake business names. Part of her scheme was possessing forged driver's licenses, showing her photo but using another person's name. In one ruse, she used a fake license in the name of a victim to take a trip on a Gulfstream private jet from Florida to California, where she stayed in a luxurious hotel under that same person's name. Miller bragged online about expensive items she'd bought throughout her scheme. In one of her posts, she could be seen in a private jet, and in another she's seen driving in a Rolls-Royce with a Louis Vuitton bag by her side. At the time, several law enforcement agencies worked together to investigate and prevent pandemic-related fraud. As a result of the investigation, Miller was eventually caught and accused of several charges. In a Massachusetts federal courtroom, the woman pleaded guilty to 3 counts of wire fraud and 2 counts of aggravated identity theft. She agreed to give up $1.3 million and was later sentenced to 5 years in prison and 3 years of supervised release. Records indicated that Miller had also been convicted in another fraud case, which landed her 5 years in a Florida prison. In the initial aftermath of that case, she shamelessly told New York Magazine, "Honestly, I more so consider myself a con artist than anything." Number 5. Brittany Johnson. On January the 22nd of 2021, Louisiana woman Brittany Johnson was arrested in Georgia after she was accused of abusing her dog in an Instagram live video. The social media influencer, who went by the name Lovely Peaches on the online platform, had been seen abusing her 6-month-old Jack Russell Terrier. She'd sprayed perfume in the dog's eyes, picked it up by the neck, and even claimed to have broken his legs. Immediately after her live stream, several people called authorities to report the 20-year-old's alleged actions. Johnson was eventually tracked down by the police to a Motel 6 in DeKalb County. After being taken into custody on a charge of cruelty to animals, the woman relinquished her ownership of the dog and surrendered it to the county's animal services. According to the DeKalb County Police, the suspect admitted to making statements on her social media about harming or killing her dog to gain more followers. Johnson was later released on a $2,500 bond, provided that she couldn't own or care for any animals until at least her case concluded. Number 4. Deja Blackwell. She is live streaming as she is committing burglaries, the Philadelphia Police Commissioner said, referring to Pennsylvania woman Deja Blackwell, who'd been involved in a widespread looting in Philadelphia. The looting occurred on the evening of September the 26th and in the aftermath of peaceful demonstrations. The protests stemmed from an unrelated case wherein a judge had ruled to dismiss all charges against a former Philadelphia police officer in the fatal shooting of 27-year-old Eddie Irizarry during the previous month. On the night in question, law enforcement received numerous 911 calls from several individuals who'd claimed to have seen a large group of people breaking into stores through Philadelphia's Center City. Investigators determined that at least 18 state-run liquor stores were broken into. The interim Philadelphia Police Commissioner, John Stanford, at the time said he believed the looters were opportunists who weren't directly connected to the protests. Stanford added that Blackwell had used her social media platform to encourage people to engage in looting and participated in criminal activities herself. During the raid, Blackwell, who was a social media influencer with the moniker Meatball, was on a live stream in which she could be heard screaming, "Free iPhones! Free iPhones!" She even yelled, "This is what happens when we don't get justice in this city." Hours later, she was spotted at a gas station on Rising Sun Avenue and taken into custody, making her one of the dozens of people arrested that night in connection with the looting. In the aftermath, Blackwell was charged with several offenses, including criminal conspiracy, burglary, and criminal trespass. The 21-year-old was later released on bail, immediately after which she took to Instagram to share her experience behind bars, saying she was traumatized. She also spoke to NBC Philadelphia about the incident, saying, "I regret it." Number 3. Jeannie Exum. On the evening of October the 18th of 2021, Instagram model Jeannie Exum was arrested after she stabbed her boyfriend with a knife. Shortly before 7 p.m. on the day in question, police responded to an apartment located on 10th Avenue in Manhattan, New York, after receiving a report regarding a male who'd been assaulted. Upon their arrival, they found 30-year-old Francis Anwar, who was bleeding quite heavily. Anwar told them that while he and Exum had a verbal dispute, the 22-year-old woman stabbed him in the arm and back with a kitchen knife. Emergency medical services also arrived at the scene and transported Anwar to Bellevue Hospital, where his wounds were treated. In the wake of the incident, Exum was arrested on a charge of second-degree assault. Following her arraignment, she was released without bail, according to her public defender. Anwar didn't want the case to move forward. The judge, nevertheless, ordered Exum to stay away from the man. As she walked out of the courthouse, she told a reporter to subscribe to her OnlyFans. Number 2. Dylan Polat and Engin Polat. An investigation bureau from the Istanbul Anatolian Chief Public Prosecutor's Office launched a probe into Turkish social media influencers Dylan Polat and her husband, Engin Polat, on October the 15th of 2023. The couple, along with 13 other suspects, were facing allegations related to 4 separate crimes, including establishing and managing a criminal organization, being a member of a criminal organization, laundering property values resulting from crime, and opposition to the tax procedure law. Authorities discovered inculpatory evidence indicating that the suspects had committed these crimes and acquired assets as a result. Consequently, the assets in question were seized. These included cosmetics, jewelry, real estate, and crypto assets, among other things. Investigators believe that Dylan and Engin were involved in the forgery of documents aimed at reducing the corporate income tax base from internet sales. As of December of 2023, the social media couple is awaiting their trial in Turkish prison. Number 1. Kayla Massa. In 2020, 10 people from South Jersey and Philadelphia, including influencer Kayla Massa, were charged with participating in a scheme which gave way for them to steal nearly $1.5 million. In 2018, Massa from Gloucester, New Jersey, started posting Instagram stories showing United States Postal Service money orders, debit cards, and bank statements. Through the posts, the woman offered people the opportunity to make quick cash if they banked at certain institutions. When the YouTuber and Instagram personality received messages from her followers, she told them that she'd temporarily use the account to deposit funds for a tax write-off or to add the account to a company's payroll. Massa added that in return, those that signed up would get thousands of dollars. She arranged meetups at parking lots where the victims handed her their debit cards and details. After doing so, Monsee and her accomplices would deposit stolen USPS money orders or counterfeit checks into the accounts. They'd also use the debit cards to buy additional money orders and overdraw funds. After securing the money, they'd block victims and erase all the evidence of their conversation. Consequently, federal law enforcement started connecting stolen postal money orders to a series of fraudulent bank account activities at various area banks. They eventually discovered the network of individuals involved in the scheme. In January of 2019, police pulled over 3 of the conspirators and arrested 2 of them after finding outstanding warrants. Officers found 39 checks and 2 debit cards stashed inside the sunroof, as well as thousands of dollars in cash and several Bank of America withdrawal slips in the center console of the vehicle. The rest of the group, including Monsee, were arrested on February the 13th of 2020. They were all charged with conspiracy to commit wire fraud and bank fraud. During the investigation, authorities determined that Monsee and her accomplices had gathered at least 45 bank accounts from a number of individuals among her 340,000 followers. They also tallied up at least 1,200 fraudulent checks, nearly 600 fraudulent money orders, and 53 USPS money orders. Even though the charges against her in court are public record, it is entirely unclear what type of punishment Monsee received, if any. Her social media in the form of YouTube, Snapchat, Twitter, and Instagram were all deleted in the aftermath of her arrest. Thanks for watching. Would you be willing to give up all social media, both posting and browsing, for the rest of your life in exchange for any amount of money? If so, how much would it take? Let us know in the comments below.